Good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. This is the regular council meeting for August 16th, 2023. Start off with the land acknowledgement. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're on the traditional lands of Acadia First Nation, part of Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Could we all stand and join me in singing the playing of O Canada? Join me. All right, let's start. O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all the sun's command, with glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you very much, everyone. That was nice. Rather than having a recorded version, it's good to hear everybody singing our national anthem rather than doing it off a recording. Before I get started, I'd like to point out that I prepare our meetings and also conduct our meetings as per council procedural policy C-028-19. That means that there's no questions or comments from the public unless we have them during public hearings. Just remember that I'll be enforcing this policy as stated, and I will not entertain any questions or comments from the gallery. If you have any questions or anything that happens after the meeting, I'll be available outside, or if you cannot stay, my card and my other councilors' colleagues' cards are also outside there to get our contact information. And I will mention this, if I do not answer the phone, I will get back to you. I run 2 or 3 different things during the run of a week, and it's awfully difficult. So please leave a message with your phone number, and I will get back to you. Item number 4, approval of the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda as circulated? Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize to council for adding these at the last minute, but I had a resident ask me about a sign to Cape for Shoe, so if we can add directional signage for Cape for Shoe, and I have a second item.
All right, just let me do that first. So
Sure.
we'll add that under new business, item 9.4, directional sign. I can't even read my own writing. Sign for Cape for Shoe. Okay,
And the second one for me is Pride Parade, the Pride Parade in September. Thank you.
so that will be item number 9.5. All right, I need a motion to entertain those 2 additions. Someone want to move those? Moved by Councillor Allen. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Is there any other additions or deletions? Councillor Lauren Cushion.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I just like to be able to make a personal statement about my health and how it all started and whatnot, and let the public know that I'm back.
So you want to add that as an agenda item?
Yes, I do.
All right, so we'll add that as item 9.6, and I'll just add it as Councillor Cushing. Councillor Cushing update. All right, that's on the agenda. Is I need a motion to approve it. Moved by Councillor Moved by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. Do I have a seconder? I see Ian sitting here. No, we gotta approve Councillor Cushing's addition. So moved by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. Do I have a seconder for that addition? Councillor Patty Durkee. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and we have Ian sitting here with us from Upland, and he's here from Halifax, and I'd like to move the planning advisor, or recommendations from planning advisory to the top of the agenda.
So that you want to add them up before presentations?
Yes, please.
Correct?
Yes.
All right, so you're making that a motion?
Yes.
Or do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. All right, so, item number 9 is moved up after the approval of the minutes, so I guess it's going to be 9.5 is what it would be? Or, yeah, it don't matter. All right, item number 6, approval of the minutes. We only have one.
Mr. Chair, we haven't approved the agenda as amended.
Oh, yes, that's right. All right, so we have an amended agenda. Is there someone want to move that we approve the agenda as amended? Moved by Councillor Daniel Allen. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 6, approval of the minutes. Item 6.1, July 19th, 2023, regular council. Those are the only minutes in there. What is this council's pleasure?
I'll move the minutes as presented.
Moved by Councillor Patty Durkee to move the minutes as presented. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton. Motion on the floor to approve the minutes of July 19th, 2023. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary? Motion carried. All right, so we're moving up item number 9 in front of that. So, item 9.1, recommendations from Planning Advisory Committee.
I'll kick it off, I guess, Mr. Chair. So the Planning Advisory Committee was tasked with the requirement to do the 10-year review of the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw. The Planning Advisory Committee, along with consultants, Upland Studios, and municipal staff, have spent the better part of 2 years going through that process and have culminated in the recommendations that are before council this evening. So council can entertain first reading or take other actions as it chooses.
Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for taking your time to come down. I've spent a lot of time over the weekend trying to sort through the 200 pages, and I just wanted to say that there are some of us around this table, I'm one of those people who is not on the Planning Advisory Committee, and so trying to get a handle on all of this, I would make the motion to defer a decision to the September council meeting.
Need a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Any discussion on that? Councillor?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Me first, that's okay.
Yeah, that's right. You didn't drop your mic, so you still have the
So-
floor.
So I guess, with that being said, I understand how important this document is to what we do over the next 10 years. And one of the things I've learned in the last 3 years is how what we have currently, before any of this, is never always right. And I want to make sure this is as right as it can be. I know that's not the right grammar, but for me, I need to make sure that I understand it, I have my questions answered, all of those things. And we run on a paperless society, but on Friday, when I realized it was about 200 pages, I emailed Jenny frantically and I said, can you print this for me? Because I'm a pen and paper kind of person. And so I've gone through it and I'm like, okay, well, what about this and what about that? And, so I have lots of questions, but I feel like I still need some time to work through these things. And one of the things that caught me was the report to the Planning Advisory Committee where it says, once council has published an ad and signals their intent to adopt the documents and hold a public hearing, all development proposals must comply with both the existing and the proposed document. That is huge for what we have to do. So I want to make sure I'm okay with what we're doing for the next, what's guiding us for the next 10 years before we move forward and get into anything that might confuse the public on, we have two different but yet similar things running side by side. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm echoing Councillor Hurlbert's words as well. I read through as much as I could in the amount of time I had since actually receiving the document last week that I had a chance to look at it. And I have a lot of questions about some of the numbers I've seen in there and some of the things. I know by deferring this, I apologize that it's not up to me to apologize, I guess, but I do apologize for having you come from Halifax. I think this document, to Councillor Hurlbert's point, is going to guide us for our next 10 years, and I think we want to get it as right as we can. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I got to say. Thank you.
Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and with the agenda only going live at the end of last week, for the 3 councillors that aren't on PAC, and even for the councillors that are on PAC, it's hard to explain to the public how important this document is. One of the most important decisions that this council will make in the next in our 4-year term. So it is important to get it right. So the extra time to reflect on that, to know it inside out is important. When I joined PAC as a new councillor, it was the one committee that had the steepest learning curve, but also helped me understand my role here at the municipality. So I'm looking forward to that time to digest a little bit more and receive maybe some more information from Ian throughout the learning process.
Councillor Patty Durkee.
I concur with all of the comments that my fellow councillors have made, and knowing that I've been on the PAC and I still have questions, I'm sure that those who aren't on the PAC will have even more. I mean, I've been going through this with a fine-tooth comb, word for word, and yes, there are questions that I need answers, and we don't want things to be vague and for people to have a misunderstanding of what we're trying to accomplish. So I will support the motion.
Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Well, I'm going to support the motion as well, but the additional reason that I'd give is that the public needs some time also, in addition to councillors, to look at it and give some feedback. So, and I've heard from a number of folks, and slowing it up is probably a grand idea, and I agree with them, and I agree with council that. So I'll be voting for the motion. Yeah, thank you.
I have one comment that I'd like to make. I don't disagree whatsoever. I was the previous chair of the Planning Advisory Committee, and I took that job over when we first started the MPS LUB over 10 years ago, and I remember all the things that it went through. So this time, even though I wasn't attending a lot of the meetings in person, I was watching them online and virtually. So when we got these final documents, I had what was the previous MPS LUB, and things that I thought didn't work very well or need to be clarified, and the current proposed MPS LUB. And I was actually having a little bit of trouble following in regards to how some decisions came about, why some things were changed, but there's also some questions that I would have in regards to just getting educated on what exactly were the maps before and how are they changed now. And I found it very difficult because some of our maps were pixelated, and because I want to make darn sure, because this does affect many, or if not all, the residents in the municipality district of Yarmouth on what can be done, how it can be done, where it can be done, where it cannot be done. And also, there's things in there for environmental protection, which you all know that I've been a strong proponent of. And there is some changes in there, and I wanted to see the updated maps, and I want to know how they come through. Now, yeah, I agree that we we should have a special meeting, and there's no motion on that. It's just have a motion right now to defer this until September, but I will be, when I call the question on this motion, I will be entertaining a motion to direct staff to arrange a meeting that's going to be detailed of the current MPS and LUB. And I would want that meeting to be online, that anybody can attend. And this would be only an information session. This would not be a proposed changes, because we just want to know what we're voting for right now. So, is there any more discussion on the current motion on the floor? Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. So that motion is to defer this into the next regular council meeting, not the committee of the whole, the regular council. So that is going to be, as soon as I can pull up my, September the 27th? So September the 27th is when this will be coming back to council for discussion, debate, and decision on what to do. All right, I had mentioned something about making another motion, because Councillor Hurlbert.
I will gladly do that for you, because I can read all of this, but to understand it will take some direction or a briefing. So I'll make a motion that we have staff arrange a presentation from Upland before our next regular council meeting. Is that a detailed briefing, update briefing?
So you're asking for a detailed briefing of the current MPS LUB?
Of this one, the proposed?
Yeah, the
Yes, the
proposed.
proposed.
This would have to be a special committee of the whole meeting.
Yes, committee of the whole, not council, before our September 20-something
All right,
council
I don't want to
meeting.
put words in your
Nope.
mouth, I'm just writing this. A motion to direct staff to arrange
A detailed
a detailed
briefing?
briefing
Presentation?
of the MPS LUB in a special committee of the whole meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
So sometime between now and the end of September, we're going to have another, not council, committee of the whole meeting, just for this.
Okay, so
Right.
there's a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Councillor Hilbert, you still have the floor.
Everybody gets what I mean? Like, just on this, nothing else, just this.
Okay,
For as long, I don't know, the 3 hours, I think, is our time limit, right? So
Yes.
don't make it a night, a 6 o'clock at night meeting, maybe a daytime or, yeah.
So this is a question to staff. So this special committee of the whole meeting will be happening possibly online. So will the public be able to watch the meeting?
So any meeting of council is a public meeting of council with the exception of the items in section 22(2) of the Municipal Government Act. So this will be public. I'll have to confer with the staff team that's going to do the presentation, but likely, just because of distance and vacations and stuff, we'll offer it virtually. So that means that anybody with the link will be able to watch the proceedings, and we'll also record it and post it to our YouTube channel. If we don't host it in person, that would be the other way we could host it.
And also will be posted on our municipal website and our Facebook page, correct?
The link, yes, the link,
Yes.
yeah, would be widely available, yep.
Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad we're doing this. I know, just by looking around, I think there's a lot of concern out in the public. So I know that this type of meeting won't be open for comments. So my card is over there. I am like John, I can't answer my phone every time, but I will call you back if anyone calls me that has a question or concern that maybe they'd like raised, that I can flow through. I don't know how to, I think you know where I'm going, but I'm more than happy to talk to any of you if there's something that I can, if it's something reasonable that I don't understand as well, and you don't understand and you may need an answer to, that I think that we all need an answer to, I'm definitely willing to listen and try and bring a concern forward if need be.
Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Right, and those are good comments, Councillor Allen. And similarly, I mean, I'll just say that I've had a number of questions about this, so I know the public's concerned, as they should be, about this document because it's very large and there are lots of changes there. So it's something that we really need to digest, both us and the public, and talk about. What I will say certainly is that I had a number of questions. One was about, that came to me, one was about, private businesses and homes, and the former land use bylaws and the new ones don't propose any significant change there. So that's what staff came up with. So oftentimes, even when you call us, we'll direct you to staff who has a better handle, and Ian as well, who has a better handle on the document. So staff and Ian's really got the file at this juncture and is the most expert person in the room about it. Thank you.
Ian, do you want to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to chime in and say, no need to apologize. We're here to support you, and as you've recognized, this is a very important set of documents, and I appreciate the need to take the time to go through them carefully. I was just going to suggest, if we go forward with a workshop briefing, I'll do my best to be as comprehensive in that briefing as possible, but if there are specific topics or specific questions that you have, perhaps you could funnel them through the CAO ahead of that meeting, and I'll make sure that they get covered in addition to the overall discussion as part of that briefing to make it as useful to you as possible. Like I say, we want to get you, council, to a point where you're comfortable taking these documents out to a public hearing. So, yeah, would, I think, be super helpful if we could do that.
I have one more comment in that regards. Just to remind everybody that this is only going to be a education for both council and anyone who wishes to present. This is not to go in and make any proposed changes. If we were going to make any proposed changes, that would happen on September the 27th. Now, council could move to go ahead with the current document. We could propose some changes. We could even send it back to Planning Advisory Committee. If it does get past first reading, I want everyone, I know there's concerns that you want to have your input. We just finished going through a public hearing. So after we pass first reading, we have to post a public hearing to have people's comments and concerns. All right? So just make everyone clear. You will have an opportunity to voice your concerns on any part of this document. Any part. Whether it's anything to do with updated zones, whether it's to do with land uses, too restrictive, not restrictive enough, whatever it is. That's when the public will have their chance. So I just wanted to make that crystal clear to everybody. And I advise everybody who's sitting out here and watching online, when we do post that this information session that we're going to set up with Upland, if you should at least watch it, because there's going to be a lot of information thrown at you. And if you have any concerns or comments from the public, please bring them to me and I'll bring them forward, or any other other council members. We are your tool to change things or keep things the same. Just remember that. I'm trying to be as transparent here as possible. I don't want to put anything out there that makes a very large group of people upset. And also, I do believe in the rights of the property owner themselves. So, if there's no more discussion on the motion on the floor, I'd entertain the question. Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. All right, so staff will be setting up a meeting date. Thank you very much for the traveling down from Halifax. I'm sure we'll be seeing you again. Thank you. All right, item number 7.1, the Harborfront Museum. We have with us today Mr. Dave Warner. Welcome. Yes, you can come up. Just hit the red button on that microphone. You don't have to speak directly into it. And I'll turn the microphone on. And there you go. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. and thank you to the council and the municipality for supporting us. The Yarmouth Harbourfront Museum is a new initiative, new a few years because it was a very difficult time for us during COVID, as you understand very well. It was really a building year for us and probably was very useful to have us think about what we wanted to do as a museum in this environment. The location is ideal. We are located in the Killam Building on the waterfront, near a good walking traffic area, and we are sharing the space with two groups. The Yarmouth County Museum has the Killam office, Killam Brothers office, and the Southwest Nova Biosphere Reserve oversee the building and have been kind enough to allow us to take a big majority of the building for displays. Our initiative is really intended to put a light on immigrants to Yarmouth, how they get here, often as visitors first, what they do when they're here as visitors, and how they appreciate the community enough that they wish to stay. The many people who have come between the years probably 1800 and 1950, it's a long period of time, it's a long time ago, it's before me, that's quite old. So before 1950, many of them came for a particular reason, whether it had been during the war when they arrived here from England as air persons, whether they arrived as families of air persons, whether they came on boats to Yarmouth County and stayed as immigrants because they were running from their own country, whether they came because they intended to start a new life in a new community. Many of them stayed, and many of them contributed widely to the community. We have done some initial work, and we have quite a unique display. It includes things like a counter with old products that were sold in stores along the main street of Yarmouth. It also shows some of the hotel kind of things that were here from the resorts and the hotels in Yarmouth County, I should say, always Yarmouth County. And it also gives you some opportunity to hear stories about some of the people and some of the initiatives and some of the artifacts that we have. In the last 2 years, we have initiated a specific project, and we've been supported by the province of Nova Scotia to do the research work to build panels that we're in the process of being prepared right now. I think I gave you a couple of copies of paper copies, nice color. Mine are black and white, but I couldn't afford any of the colored copies, but I think you have colored copies of the kinds of panels that we intend to have in our museum. We have a professional in Halifax doing the work and preparing it, and it's expensive. Your support will help us get through a part of that. The panel, the first picture, I think, shows someone standing next to a panel. It is 7 feet high, and it's about 6 feet wide. And that 6 feet has two sections for panels, two sides. So we have one family on one side. We have an additional family. The last picture you have is the panel almost complete. We have a few editorial changes to make on another family, and the third one is a third family in the community. It's not the stories of present day, it's the stories of the original people who came for that family to the community, and it tells their story on how they contributed to the community and how their family have continued to contribute over the years. So the three families, and many people will remember names, are the Gillises, Saul Gillis, and the Yarmouth tartan that was registered by Saul and Thistle Knitwear. Another is the Pink family that started as sellers, but many of them became lawyers, and they're still lawyers today throughout the country, particularly in Nova Scotia, but throughout the country. And the third family we've highlighted in this first set of panels is the Bashira family. Now, that doesn't sound right to put Jewish and Lebanese people in the same panel, but they were the best of friends along the main street of Yarmouth and shared with each other and helped each other as their businesses grew, and they contributed very much to our communities. They started as peddlers. So we do have a little shop that is called what is I called? Sorry, I've got to remind myself. Called the Yarmouth Peddlers Shop. And they started as peddlers pulling carts, but they became businesses with buildings along the main street of Yarmouth, but they traveled the whole of the county to do their sales. They're very able sellers, and they contributed and did very well in the community. So we've tried to highlight those individuals or those families that have done something with our initial panels. We will look to do more. We have, if you haven't been in the building, it's at 90 Water Street. It is the Killam Building, and you really should go in and take a peek. Take a few minutes to look at the displays. The second floor is full of display. The third floor is out of reach. It's our office and working area. The Southwest Nova Biosphere has a full staff working in that building on the third floor and traveling quite a bit because they're planting trees and doing many other things that are very environmentally appropriate. We have staff that we hire during the summer who are telling stories, who are updating our records, who are actually assisting the Southwest Nova Biosphere because they received no students this year. So we had enough people to help tell their story at the same time. So we've shared very well. Your assistance will go directly toward some of the completion of our first panel, which we hope will be available. Really, we're talking September, October, and our students are only here until August, but maybe we'll have an unveiling and we'll try to show people so that we can build for next year, the summer season. Our main operation is when we have staff, student staff from the summer. That's a little story of us. I'd love to have people come. Make sure you sign the guest book so I won't complain that you weren't there. It's always nice, and it gives us numbers. When the government looks at supporting groups of this sort, they always like to know that you had people in. So make sure you fill in the guest book. Also, we'd love to have you purchase something at the Yarmouth Peddlers Shop. The items we have there are all handmade, locally made, some items that were old traditional names, Stanfield, McIntosh. I can't think of all the others, but we have a lot of different names of McGregor. There, I found some. Parkhurst. Gee, I don't even know that one. Sorry. But there are many clothing products and gift items that you can get for others in the family that are unique to Yarmouth in many cases. So I'd like to welcome you to come. Your support will certainly be used, and we're looking forward to continuing and building the project. We are going through growing pains. We are small. We don't have a lot of direct support because we're a new entity, and we have some corporate support, some federal government support, some provincial government support, as well as your support. So we are pleased that we have shown something that makes it meaningful for us to continue to work. That's all I have to say at this time, but I'd certainly welcome questions.
Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, David, for the presentation. And thank you for always working to showcase Yarmouth and bring people in. So my question, I guess, is how is the guest book this summer, and how has tourism been in your eyes? Being located next to the Cat has to help a little bit.
It generally would, but it's been a very slow year for everyone. I can't say that enough. I don't know the numbers right now, but I check the book every time I go in to make sure there's another page full every 2 or 3 days as we can, but it hasn't even been that. We might have had a page full a week. The people that do go in love the stories. They love to sit there and look at things. The artifacts are amazing. They're stories, newspaper articles of families and what they did, and there are all sorts of things that really create your interest. We'd love to have more, but tourists can also be us. I'd love to have us in the building too, because we all can support it and tell the story.
Just one follow-up comment. I will say the one thing I like is that you're working with partners within one building. The cost to keep a building open these days is very expensive.
Yeah.
I've been to your building twice, seen some of the displays, had a rundown of the Southwest Nova Biosphere Reserve. I very much enjoyed it, and I've also participated in an escape room
Oh, yes.
as part of the Yarmouth County Museum. So I like the work that you're doing there, and I'm happy to support it.
We're trying, and the museum was open some this summer, not all the time, but it tries its best, so that there are 3 groups working and active in the building.
Deputy Warden?
Thanks, David, for coming in. Excellent presentation. And I think one of the most important things you indicated, and there's a sizable crowd here, so I'm going to come down and visit your museum, but there are also many others. We have the Provincial Firefighters Museum. So if you get a chance, I'm going to propose that everybody do a museum day, and you go around and visit them all. And because that is very, very important to have the names in the book, because when the provincial funders come, they look at those things, and that's partly, most of the funding formulas do weigh that. So if you get an opportunity to drop in any of our local museums, it would be very, very helpful to have your name there and be part of the count. So a tourist is a tourist. It could be a local tourist. So I agree with that 100%. And great job. I was a member of the Southwest Nova Scotia Biosphere Reserve Board, and they're a great organization too. And it's nice that you're partnering with them. And that organization, many people know, but some may not. That goes from Liverpool or
Annapolis.
Queens County, right around to Annapolis. So it's really quite a designation, and it was not easy to get initially. So
No,
I'll say
you're
that.
right.
Thank you, David.
You're right. Thank you.
Councillor Patty Durkee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to share that what's happening there is sharing history that a lot of people don't know about. We're very multicultural, our community. When you think of, the Acadians, the Canadian, African, the Mi'kmaq community, we also now we're featuring the European Jewish community. There were a group of people from India who came and taught in our schools, and a lot of people just don't know about this because it was in the past. And certainly the Lebanese community had a huge impact on Yarmouth, and as Dave had mentioned, that the relationships between them were pretty amazing. I've heard some stories from Lorraine d'Entremont of how the peddlers used to go down to Pimlico, and Max Starr in particular, they used to argue over where he was going to stay overnight because they all really enjoyed him. And so these are things, and they peddled to Clare. And so they had to build relationships in order to survive here. So I can say I don't have conflict of interest with regards to this because I am on the board of the Harbourfront Museum, but I don't benefit in any way financially. But I'm absolutely thrilled to be able to share some of the stories that we're able to put together. And it's stories from the past that, particularly for young people, for students who are in our schools now, they will have no idea about this. So it will be a great learning experience for them. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. I will mention that we're closed on Mondays, but we're open Tuesday to Saturday. So if that's useful, during the day at this time, we have 3 staff, but we have to spread them out over the whole week.
Well, thank you very much, Dave. I see no other microphones. I have to admit that I was one of the ones that visited and never saw your guest book.
Oh,
So
no.
I'm going to have to come back in. Actually, my mother-in-law really loves history and could probably teach us all a few extra stories on top of what we know, because she's from up in the Clare region, and she always talked about even going there as a kid to the Killam building, where it's actually located, and tell different stories about the way things used to be.
That's right.
Yeah, the way things. Any questions from staff? Nope, hearing none. Go on to the next presentation, which would be Mr. Dave Warner once again, and Mr. Michael Morris in regards to the Sarah Corning Society. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Pleased to be here. I have a little handout which I'd like to give everyone, if I could. It explains who Sarah Corning was. Sarah Corning was one of our great heroes from Yarmouth County. She lived in Chicago, and the Chicago Cemetery has given us a piece of land within the cemetery to make a memorial park. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, actually, we can hear
What
you.
do I do?
That's you're all right, you're on.
You're already on.
Okay. Did people hear me before? Okay. So, oh, thank you. We have started to make a park, and we appreciate your support very much. Sarah is buried in the Chicago Cemetery, and she was born within sight of the cemetery. So it's very appropriate to have a memorial park where it is. And we are planning on making, you see a panel there, it's a life-size, almost a life-size panel of her in her nursing outfit. And that was owned by a department in Halifax. It was on the waterfront, and they gave it to us, which is very nice, but it needs a frame to put around it and to be mounted in the park. There's another panel we'd like to make, which is, there is a panel now on Parade Street outlining her life, but we want to make a panel also showing her place in the community, where she was from, and where she's buried within the cemetery. So, you have any questions? Okay?
Just a couple of items. You all heard about Sarah Corning in the past when they unveiled the statue which is behind the Yarmouth County Museum. We were part of that committee, and their initiative, the initial initiative, was to make sure that happened. Since then, we've taken responsibility to continue to educate the community and do as much as we can in Sarah Corning's name. Some of you may have heard of the plaque that is at the front of the Yarmouth Elementary School. Sarah was certainly a supporter of education, and we put a little saying on it that that really highlighted the need for people to have a good education because it made them good people. We also have done some other things over the years. We've assisted with the lighting for the Sarah Corning Memorial Statue. We've assisted with, we've made some of the brochures that you have and share them widely as much as we can with the community, particularly the education community. The Yarmouth Elementary School is very near the Yarmouth County Museum, so they can go on their short visits across the street and learn a little bit about Sarah. And this park, we hope, will be a peaceful place. If you go along the Peterson Road, the Baptist Church, Chicago Baptist Church, is on the hill on the left. Before you get to it as you're going along the Peterson Road from the town end, not from the other end, I forget which end, which road goes over the hill? Dayton Road. The Dayton Road, you go left. And just beyond the church, there's a little gate. Well, our corner, we have a corner, it's 380 square feet, that you assisted with before to prepare the land. The cemetery committee agreed, society agreed to allow us to use that land. So we did some preparation work. We didn't go further because the statue was being done. We're now back at that project to try to continue it and make it a success. One of the panels will be very similar in size to the ones at Fisherman's Point, Fish Point. That size, it will have some of the information that already exists, but be a new panel. And we also will have a bench so that people can sit and think and relax and realize what she has done for us, and that she's very close by at this point, at that point. So we'd certainly love you all to visit. I mentioned it with the Harborfront Museum. Do a little stop by, take a break, and walk in and just see the little area I'm talking about. It's right on the left-hand end near the road, and take a look to see where it is, and realize that Sarah's in that cemetery with it. So we hope that it'll become a peaceful place.
Have you any questions about?
Well, thank you
the
very
cemetery?
much. One thing that I want to point out is something that she said that was, that rings true to everywhere where we go, is education is what all nations need to advance. Those words couldn't have been spoke truer by anybody.
That's right. She wrote that in a letter to a friend, and the year was 1927.
Yep,
So those are
absolutely.
important messages forever, isn't it?
Yep. It's amazing what local people have
Yeah.
done to affect the world
Right.
across the world. Councillor Nick Hilton, you have the floor.
A quick tiny bit of interest. She left here as a nurse and was with the American Red Cross. When she went to Armenia, where she did, the story, if you read it, will amaze you. And she went to Armenia and she ended up saving many children and people that were affected by the wars. She also, is that me? She also was a lead in coming when the explosion in Halifax happened, and she brought a crew of people up from the U.S. to be the first nurse on site to work with the people in Halifax. So she did those sorts of efforts as a real humanitarian. She's renowned in Armenia. They praise her.
Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to you both for the work that you're doing in our community. I grew up on the Peterson Road and don't really know the story that well. And as I read it, I gain appreciation for it. I've been a nurse for 20 years now, and I find some irony in it being so close to home and not knowing it, the story. So I thank you for that work, and again, look forward to supporting the causes. As someone that enjoys traveling, these are the things that bring people to our community when they Google Map what to do, and these are the things that we should be supporting to increase tourism here. So thanks again.
Thank you. You're not alone in not knowing about Sarah. She was a very private person, and she never talked about her life when she was alive. It was all discovered after she died. Very humble.
Deputy Warden.
Yes, I was at the dedication of the statue in town, and it was an amazing story, and there was lots said about the history of it. And of course, we all know that the Armenian and Greek situation after, there about the Second World War, the First World War. So it was very, very grave and very, very terrible moment in history. And but I was very, very surprised. To your point, there were some Armenian dignitaries that had come over, and they spoke very, very highly of Sarah's efforts. And obviously, I was like everybody else, shocked that that her efforts are that momentous and that brave, and that so really, really quite a person, somebody that should be honored and respected, and certainly will be supportive of. Can't imagine we wouldn't be supportive of those efforts. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any more comments? Comments from staff? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I know I'm usually long-winded. I was short-winded tonight.
I was ready for you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7.3, the Deputy CAO, Darlene LeBlanc. She's just outside the door. She has a report for council. All right, Darlene, your mic's on. You have the floor.
All right, thanks. This is just to give you a very brief overview of some of the things that are going on in my department right now. So in terms of human resources, over the past year, we've completed one full-time hiring process. That was the accounting clerk, as well as hiring 6 seasonal positions at Cape Shoe and 1 for Public Works. We have 2 processes that are ongoing currently, the Director of Municipal Services and the Accessibility and Inclusion Coordinator, which we're very close with. We have one that's going to start in the fall, the Active Living Coordinator, and we're looking at filling positions of Development Officer and Building Official as well. So there's lots going on there. Some of the bylaws and policies we're going through right now, the Local Improvements Bylaw, we held a workshop with Council, and so some of the proposed changes from that will be coming forward to Council. Municipal Streets and Sidewalks Bylaw, Council has asked us to look at including a section on trails in that one. Tax sale policy, we are looking at updating and making the process more clear. Council procedural policy will be dealing with the management of in-camera information. Procurement policy, we're looking at updating the local preference section and adding a section on social procurement. And grants policy will be to include the parkland dedication and as well as do a general review of the policy and process to come back to council. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, the committee's been formed. We have all the members in place, and we're just waiting to do an orientation until the coordinator is hired. Occupational health and safety, we're working on developing lockdown procedures. This would be for events such as bomb threats, for example. We have a safety officer from the province who's going to be meeting with our committee to just help us get started in that process. We're also working on developing procedures and training for safety at the front counters. And IT, the domain name change, we're ready to go with that. So we just need to make some decisions around how to roll that out and a go-live date for that. And the new website, we have a staff committee that's been set up to work with the AMA on developing content and working on the design. And council will have opportunities to review that before anything goes live as well. And that's basically it.
Any questions from council? Councilor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Darlene, for the work that you do. When you say the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Coordinator is close, how close might we be?
We've done all the interviews.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect,
so
okay.
We're very close.
Good. And so from there, we will hire, you will hire them, and then we will come back and we'll work to set up like the first initial meeting of the committee?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
exactly.
Thank you. Thanks.
I see no other mics on, Darlene, but I'm going to ask you this question in regards to the grants policy. When do we expect that that is going to be brought back before council? Because as we all know, yeah, here it is August, but grants time comes up pretty quickly in March, April. So are we expecting that to come sometime soon?
Yep, it'll be in the fall. I don't have.
It's in the 3 to 6 month bucket.
Yeah, it'll be in the fall, but I don't have the chart in front of me to say exactly what month we're planning on. Do you have that, Victoria?
I'm going to look it up.
Okay,
All right, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
that's okay.
that's something that we, council always seems to struggle with, and a better policy makes us make better decisions.
For sure.
So,
Yeah,
and that's one that always seems to be hard, and it's getting tougher and tougher every year because unfortunately the need is getting greater and greater. So is there any more questions of Darlene? Hearing none, thank you very much.
thanks.
Can someone go turn Darlene the microphone off? Wait a second, maybe I can turn it off. I can. I forgot about that feature.
Mr. Chair, those seats are available if anyone wants to sit down in the gallery.
Yeah, so if you guys want to sit down in the gallery, you need to sit down, you can use those chairs. Item number 8, old business, 8.1, Acts of Kindness Grant Application. Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had asked after their presentation, or actually I think during their presentation, which we shouldn't have done, and I will strive to be better at motions during presentations. There should not be any. My fault. But this is on our agenda tonight. This organization presented to us, and they had made an application through our grants process, and we deferred it until we could hear from them. And I asked for this to be added, and I know that we have directed staff to work through some food security information for us. And for me, I feel like this particular group told us they were in good shape right now. And so I don't want this to go away, but I would like to make a motion that can we defer it to a future date after we talk about the food security outcome? How do I word that in a motion?
You worded that just perfectly,
Okay.
because it's very clear. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton. Discussion? You still have the floor, Councillor Hurlbert.
I think it's important, and we know, and we've talked about this before, that food insecurity, food security is a huge issue within the municipality and within, our province. And, I await the report from staff, and like I said, I got the sense, and they actually, I think, they even said that they felt like they were in good shape right now. It doesn't mean that they won't need money in the future, but so I wouldn't want to, say, no, we're not giving them anything. But at this time, I feel that it's, in our best interest and their best interest to just hold off on this until we get the report back from staff, and then we can make a decision.
Thank you. Councillor Hilton.
Thank you. Through you to the CAO. When can we expect that report, would be my first question.
Early fall?
Okay. And I guess the reason I ask that is because we're waiting on food security issues, why people have food security issues now. So the one thing about this is you're correct, he didn't specify any urgent need for food support, but as, the days get shorter and colder, we know that residents are struggling, and we've kind of held all our not, I don't know if we've held them all. Did we support anyone in the grants process in relation to food security? Yeah, we did. Okay. So I guess I just want to know sooner than later what we're going to do. Is it a briefing note, or are we expecting like kind of a procedure on how to deal with it? Would it include any information on how to deal with organizations in our community that specifically deal with food security?
So council was interested in trying to identify how many community groups are working on the food security issue. So a group might not be only about food security like Acts of Kindness are. It could be a community hall that offers a community meal once a month. And council was kind of just looking for an inventory of access to those food supports, so that they could kind of understand what's happening where. My understanding was that you were interested in maybe looking at filling gaps. So, yeah, so that's kind of how we're going to approach the work.
Okay, thank you for that.
Councillor Hurlbert.
And in addition to that, it circles back to when we volunteered for 100 meals within the town. And I think I had made the motion that we should be doing something, within our municipality, and I still agree that we should. And that's when I think it came full circle where we asked staff to do that, and then realized through our grants process that there were lots of people, lots of organizations that were also supporting it too. So I would agree with Councillor Hilton. We need to be doing something, and I feel like until we have that inventory that the CAO has talked about, then that will better inform how we move forward with what we do. Yeah, thank you.
If I remember correctly, too, when the Acts of Kindness first put their grant application forward, they didn't know about the money that they received from the provincial government? No, they didn't. So it was good to get a presentation from them to find that information out, because not that they're flush with cash, but at least they have enough cash to operate with. Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I will speak on the act of kindness that they have done, provided thousands of meals for people not only in the town but in the municipality also. And they have moved their location on East Street down to the, used to be the youth center on Queen Street, I believe it is, and they have qualified or certified chefs there now looking after things. So I think they're a very good organization, and they've done a lot, not only for the municipality of Yarmouth, but also for the town of Yarmouth and beyond. So I think it's a good group, and I think that's something that we should look at and support. Thank you.
Thank you. So there is a motion on the floor. Is there any more discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 8.2, second reading of Regional Emergency Management Bylaw R-036-21. You all have that in your package, and we just earlier this evening completed the public hearing on that. There was some requested changes by the province. Other than that, there was none. So I guess my question to the CAO, is those recommended changes currently in the second reading that we have here?
They are not. So council could approve the bylaw as submitted in your package or approve the bylaw as recommended by the province.
So, I knew the answer to that question, but wanted to make sure. Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Yes, I'll move the Municipal District of Yarmouth approve the bylaw as recommended by the province.
Second reading. All right, do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Any discussion on that,
Mr. Chair.
Madam CEO?
So I just want to say again, just in case somebody didn't hear, so if this motion passes, this bylaw does not come into effect immediately. It will get submitted to the province. The minister and their staff will review it. Once the minister approves it, then we will advertise it, then it comes into effect.
I do have one point of clarification on that. Is this eligible for public appeal? No. Okay. What ones are allowed, or?
I'll have to get back to you on that.
I should know the answer to that question. I've been here long enough.
Inside the planning framework.
Yes, it is inside the planning framework. Okay. All right, is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 9.1. Oh, that was already dealt with. Nope.
915. You're done.
Yes, I'm just making sure that I'm not missing nothing in there. Is 9.14 draft maps, which is part of the recommendation from the PAC, which got moved till September. So item 9.1.5, proposed Nova Scotia Coastal Protection Act consultation response. You have in your package a motion. What is the pleasure of council? Madam CEO?
Sure. So the province of Nova Scotia has passed a piece of legislation called the Coastal Protection Act. And what they're trying to do with that legislation is to move development further away and higher up from coastal waters. The act has been received royal assent, but there are regulations, which are like the specific rules, that are not approved. And so the province has been engaging with municipalities around those proposed regulations. So who will enforce things, who will analyze things, how far back and how high up should properties be built, and all those questions are kind of on the table. So the province sent a number of questions to the municipality asking for a response. Council asked the Planning Advisory Committee to take a look at the questions and develop the response. So attached to the agenda tonight is the response that was proposed by the municipal planner, reviewed by the Planning Advisory Committee, and now recommended that council submit it to government as this municipality's response to those questions.
Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion that we approve the consultation response and forward to the provincial government.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, if you could just maybe remind people that on our online agenda, there's a link to from this agenda item to that document if anybody wants to see it.
Okay, so yeah, the CAO just reminded me, if anyone wants to review that online, that if you click on the document, there's a link online for people to access that. And all in there, it has the pending regulations, and you got to remember, these are submissions to the province. This is the what was suggested by our planner and our planning advisory committee. That meeting was held, when was it, last month in July, in that regards? Yeah, July the 27th. So those were our recommended responses, and if you want to see them, they are online. All right, item 9.2, regular review of the alternative voting bylaw. Also in there, you have your returning officers report for the election of 2020. A recommendation. What is the pleasure of council? Councillor Hilton.
Thank you. And although it's a regular review, it's my first review, being my first term. And just through you to the CAO. So just, can you just describe what, a motion to recommend that we retain the current version of the alternate voting bylaw A-028-20 subject? Yeah. What would that look like? The next election, is this, I really do need some clarity. This is really just about the process for the next election? Is that what this looks like?
Sure, yeah. So in 2018-19, there was a lot of talk about municipalities adopting electronic elections or staying with paper ballots or doing hybrid. And at the time, this council felt, because there was very poor internet connectivity around the municipality, that we would stay with paper ballots and try to prevent any barriers to voting for residents. And then along came the pandemic, and the province of Nova Scotia had directed municipalities that they would hold their elections in October of 2020, and they had to do it to align with the public health orders. So that meant the only option really would be to do an electronic election. So the municipality delivered an election that had 47.7, I think it is, greater voter turnout in 2020 over 2016. In order to do the electronic election under the Municipal Government Act, how that happens is required to be defined through a bylaw. And so this bylaw is on the books, and it gives this council the power and the authority to deliver the election using electronic means. The bylaw also calls for a regular review not less than 1 year before the next election. So the next election is in October of 2024. So by October of this year, staff were required to review the bylaw and make sure it's in keeping with the Nova Scotia Municipal Elections Act as well as best practices. So staff have undertaken that review. There are no recommended changes to the bylaw. It is important to note that the bylaw defaults to an electronic election.
It defaults to an electronic election.
It does.
So going forward, all elections would be electronic?
Yes, unless council changes the bylaw.
Do you have, but like last time, people were able to come to the municipal office and have assistance with voting, just the same way that you would vote paper-wise, correct?
That's right. So that's
Yeah.
why we included the returning officer's report.
Yeah.
Because in there's a list of the outreach that was done with the mobile voting kiosks. So we were in long-term care homes, we were in homes for special care. We had kiosks in Carleton and in other communities, as well as kiosks here at the municipal office. And so we had poll clerks, we had returning officers, people went behind a private screen. The only difference was you voted on an iPad instead of on a paper ballot.
Okay.
Everything else was the same. We had to have a returning officer, voter lists were developed, call for nominations for candidates was exactly the same, filing to be a candidate was exactly the same. Basically, this is just using technology for people to cast their votes.
Okay, much appreciated. I'll make that a motion to follow the recommendations of the CAO to retain the current version of the alternative voting bylaw A-028-20.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Patty Durkee. Comments? I'll make a comment first. I don't like it. Don't like it at all. I think there should be still a paper option. A lot of older folks out my way, either number one, don't trust electronic, or number two, use the paper version of it as a way to get out, or a way for someone to come visit or take them to a polling station. I think we should respect all differences of opinions, and I think that we should move forward with also at least the option. I'm not saying hold the paper ballot in areas like we did before, because we used to have 3 or 4, there was, if I remember correctly, there was 4 voting stations just in District 1, which is my district. There was 2 or 3 in others. But at least give people the option of at least going somewhere to vote in paper if they so choose. I know I keep hearing that, and I've heard people talk about the electronic version of it, but they said, well, why can't we go in and visit? You guys are out knocking on our doors. Why can't we go in and... That's just what I've heard, and I don't like it. I think we should include some part of a paper ballot, the old-fashioned style. You see the names on the thing, you should go up there and put your check mark on it, and that's what I want to do, and put it in there. At least in some people's mind, that's a lot more secure than electronic devices, because not everybody believes that electronic devices are on the up and up. That's my personal opinion. Councillor Hurlbert?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This wasn't where I was going to go with this, but since you brought that up, in the document from our returning officer, it says the final voter turnout was 58% of eligible voters compared to 39.9% in 2016. And of that, they say, this report says anecdotal experience would indicate that 90% of the kiosk users were seniors. It continues to say that of 3,405 eligible voters over 60 years of age, of those 2,106 voters, which is 61% participation rate. I would disagree with the comment that seniors are having a difficult time voting, when this tells us something completely different. Our voter turnout was higher, our seniors are getting out. I myself brought seniors to the polling station in South Ohio. I don't think access, I personally don't think access is an issue. I'll be voting in favor of this. I think this report clearly states that voter participation was higher, whether it was the pandemic, whether it was the fact that it was online, people could do it from the comfort of their own home, they didn't have to travel anywhere, or they could use the kiosks, which were well used, and this report goes through all of that. I don't see any issue with the public. If the public wants a paper ballot, or they want to go to a polling station to vote, the kiosk and the iPad is, in my opinion, no different than that piece of paper with a check mark. So I will be voting in favor. I think that this report from our returning, is he called the returning officer? Returning officer is clear and highlights the successes.
Mr. Chair, I need to clarify something I said, if that's okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Sure, I need to clarify that under this bylaw and this voting method, people can vote by telephone as well. It's not just on the iPads. It's telephone voting and electronic voting.
Councillor Cushing?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I tend to agree with what John was saying, and I understand where Councilor Hurlbert is coming from in the report that was given to us. But again, I do know seniors who had trouble in understanding how to get to a kiosk, number one. Number two, on the telephone, and I do know that they had to have family members do it for them. So, and again, it's an opportunity for seniors to get out and to have that piece of paper to mark their candidate on that they want to represent them. So I'd like to see the electronic, sure. I also like to see some paper ballots for those who wish to continue with that process. Thank you.
Comments still? Councillor Nick Hilton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and, I made the motion because at some point we have to pass some sort of a voters bylaw. I'm not opposed to the idea of, a paper ballot. If it was the only one where you could fill one out was here, so be it. I guess I looked to you, the chair, John, maybe to suggest not an alternative, amendment to the motion. Thank you, Councillor Durkee. That would allow us to have, it doesn't have to default to electronic voting. We can do a mix of everything if you really wish. I feel like we're generalizing seniors having an issue with paper voting, but it's not seniors, it's anyone in the public of any age that may have an issue putting their vote in an electronic device, so.
For me, most generally, a chair doesn't make an amendment, makes any motions, however, we could. If I'm just making this a suggestion, I'm not putting on the floor the amendment to provide at least one polling station to provide paper ballots during the election period. So you're making that an amendment? Okay, seconder? No, that's why I'm asking, is there a seconder?
I'll second that amendment that we would have one polling station available, so I understand the municipality for paper ballot.
Okay, so seconded by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. So as I heard it or mentioned, that we provide the municipality district of Yarmouth, as per amendment, provide at least one polling station that will provide a paper ballot if so requested.
I think I heard one, at least.
Okay, so there's an amendment on the main motion. Any discussion? I seen my microphones all blow up. So the first one would be Councillor Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I, again, seconded the motion for the purpose of discussion. I do understand that seniors prefer the old-fashioned way. It's just something that they like to do. But I have to say that I was very happy with the voter turnout in the last election. It was absolutely the highest that it's ever been, I believe. The concern I have is that I'm brain farting at the moment. What I wanted to say is I'm happy with using the automated online version, but I would also agree that one polling station in the community for those people who wanted to use written form would suffice.
Councillor Daniel Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess maybe I'm a little confused here, but I thought we were looking at this bylaw. So are we making a motion to change the bylaw? Is that what we're doing here? Can we do that at this point, or do we make a motion to send this back to staff with other recommendations to bring back to us? And I guess that's through you to Madam Chair, Madam CEO.
So as I understand it, if the amendment to the motion is passed, then really what you're saying is you want to change the bylaw, which means it has to go to staff to be reviewed, because I'm not sure if the amendment is legal. And then if that's the case and it's legal, then you have to do first and second reading on your bylaw. And I would have to double check, but this one might also require a public hearing, which is no problem. I just need to understand the process for sure. My question around the way the amendment is worded is that I'm not sure if the Election Act would allow you to only offer a paper ballot at one polling station. I'm thinking we would need to review that to understand if it's only one way or the other, or if both are available, they have to be available everywhere. So I would have to do some research on that.
So, not to interrupt you, but to further my point, I guess if we're setting up a kiosk and we're having the electronic vote at different locations, if we're sending this back to staff as a suggestion, could we not include the paper ballot at the same time? So that people, if they go in, they can either choose to use the iPad or choose. I know it's going to cause more work, and
It will be double the money, double the staff, and double the chance for human error in counting the ballots.
but there are, and I hear, but there are people out there, and not just seniors.
can absolutely
There is
happen.
everyone that doesn't trust, you know. So, yeah, I'm a little torn on this, because I was wondering about what it would take to actually do a paper ballot at the same time as the electronic ballot. And if someone comes in and they want to do electronic, go to the left. If you want to do paper, go to the right. You know, I didn't really want to make it really difficult, but I wasn't sure what it would, to your point, I don't know what the expense would be. And we only have an election every 4 years. And it's really for the public to choose who they want to sit in these seats. So I want to make sure that we get as many people out as we can.
Either way, if the amendment passes, staff will go back, and we'll get back to you with any kind of problems with legislation around that. And, you know, because the way the amendment reads right now, it's one polling station with paper ballots. If that's not allowable, staff will come back and tell council, and then council will tell me what to do.
Right.
I think the motion read at least one.
Yeah, research has to be done into the act, because I don't even know how to advise you, because I wasn't expecting the amendment to be worded that way, so, yeah.
Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if we don't go with the recommendation, then really what the amendment to the motion should have been is to direct staff to make the specific amendment of at least one paper? Was it at least? Because I heard one, and then somebody else said at least. What was it at least, meaning more than one, or just one? Because that matters.
We're going to have to refer to the recording secretary. What did you hear? I can't turn on your mic with all the others. I'll tell you that.
The motion, as I heard it, was at least one.
Okay.
And that's what I heard as well.
Okay. So the amended motion is to direct staff to make that specific amendment, but we're not sure that can be done. So we're asking staff to go back to see what can be done, correct? So the motion as amended can't really happen until we know that staff can or can't do that?
So it's, you know, if the amendment passes, it's okay to let it pass.
Okay.
Because when we go back and do the work, if there's a reason why it can't happen, we'll come back to council, explain why it can't happen, and council can give us direction on how they want us to proceed from there. And we will have more information about what the Election Act says and provide you with a better summary of your options.
And if
Okay.
we have to rescind the motion, we certainly can.
So further to that, if this has to be done within, do we have from now until when to get this finished?
We have time. The rev-
Okay.
The
Has to-
time
has to
limitation was
start?
on the review. So we've done the review.
Okay.
And that was inside our own bylaw. So we're good to go as far as that's concerned. We would have to nail down the election format by January in order to engage a returning officer who would understand what type of election they were being hired to deliver.
Okay, so knowing all of that, when we talk about, 1 month bucket, 2 month bucket, 3 month buckets, those things that are in the 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 month buckets have to go later because this will have to be a priority for staff,
Right on.
correct? Okay, thank you.
Councillor Patty Durkee.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I remembered exactly what I was concerned about, and that was cost. If we had to do a full online plus paper, that if it costs double the amount, then I would be certainly concerned with that, because I don't think there's really any need to do that, to do both, if it's going to cost twice the amount of money. We managed the last time with just the virtual voting with a good turnout, so I think that's really important for our staff to have a look at that and come back to us with that. Because if you can do one, it might not cost as much money, or one or two. But if you had to do every polling station, have both paper and virtual, then that would be an issue.
Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham, then me.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some, I obviously seconded the amendment, so, and I've heard some people certainly voice their want of a paper ballot. So I think that the amendment's suitably vague in a sense, if it were to pass, as you've indicated, Madam CEO, or our CEO's indicated, staff can go back, look at it, they can bring back some options with more than one or more paper ballot polling locations for folks, and they can cost it out first, and we can have a conversation at that time, and we can pass the rest of the bylaw tonight, and there'd be that one bit to discuss moving forward. But we do have lots of time. The election's not for another year plus, so we're all set. Thanks.
Okay, myself, then Councillor Nick Hilton. I'll lay it on the floor. Me personally, I don't like electronic voting. I don't trust it. And that's the way I've always been, and you can't change it. Please don't interrupt. But I do believe that we should try to get as many people out there to vote. As we all know, municipal elections are very close in some districts. There's been instances where people's won by less than 5 votes. As far as the participation part, this is a little bit of trivia that some of you may or may not know. I don't buy that electronic voting would get out more turnout, but at least in 2008, I do know for a fact, in District 1 and the District of Carleton, we had 64.5% people participating using a paper ballot. So I'm just putting that on the floor. I personally don't like electronic voting. If I can get away with not doing it, I'm not. It's just, that's me. And there's others out there like me. But I can understand the need. Some people feel, especially with the price of fuel and things, people cannot get out to a polling station, and they should have the options. So I am warming a little bit to the electronic thing, but I believe we should put as many options out there as possible to the public to be able to exercise their right to choose their representatives, and that's the way I feel. And it may cost a little bit more, but we're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, or at least I don't believe so, because inflation right now has gone through the roof on everything. But as far as I'm concerned, this is the best solution to something to try to get as many people out to vote, whether they want to vote electronically via their computer, whether they want to vote via their phone, or whether they just want to walk right up to a door and put their X on a piece of paper and slide it in a slot. That's my opinion, but Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Warden, for bringing this topic to the table. I have to agree that this is really about accessibility. If people have issues with technology, this provides accessibility for them. If people have an issue or just have issues with trust in government, this provides a way to maybe believe that their vote is going to count And, I think that's important. So I'm in favor of adding paper ballots to the policy. We have a long history of paper ballots. That's democracy at its beginning. So I think it's a suitable solution for everyone. So I'm not telling you that I'll vote to have paper ballots at 100 stops all over Yarmouth County, but you will have the option to come in and make that check mark, hopefully, cost depending. I will tell you, if you voted by phone was the worst. Internet was considerably easier, but again, paper ballots will be there, hopefully, for everyone to submit their vote.
All right, is there any more discussion on that, other than I will mention that the phone, AKA cell, that's another issue I'm going to bring up at a future council date. Deputy Warden, then I'll call for the question.
Well, I guess it's pretty simple. Doesn't matter if somebody votes for us, with paper or electronic, as long as they vote for us. How does that sound?
I knew you were going to have to make a crack on that for some reason, I knew.
So no, I think it's worthwhile exploring the paper option. I know lots of people do like that for a whole variety of valid reasons. So yeah, let's get the information and make some decisions around that. Thanks.
All right, any more comments on the amendment on the main motion? Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Back to the main motion. Any more discussion on the main motion? Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Item 9.3, Play On Hockey Canada. Councillor Nick Hilton, you had asked to have this added to the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll make this a quick one for us tonight. Play On Canada, who was here a number of years ago, is very interested in hosting another event here in Yarmouth. Yarmouth has a reputation nationally in multiple areas, sports, arts, of hosting quality events. I know at the table for Play On, they specifically mentioned Yarmouth in being here and how great the last event was. So there's no financial request, but they are asking for a letter of support to host a Play On event here next year. They will be following information, but I personally don't see any reason why we wouldn't support bringing people from all over Nova Scotia and parts of the country here. So I'd like to make a motion that we write a letter of support to host a Play On Canada event in 2024, and I'll leave the details to the CAO and staff.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Patty Durkee. I do have a couple questions before we vote on this motion. From my understanding, Play On Hockey Night in Play On Canada is a for-profit organization, correct? If I remember correctly, do you know, Councillor Hilton?
What I know is that they used to be sponsored by Hockey Night in Canada, and funding is a significant issue right now. If they're making profit, it ain't very much, and that will be looked at in the budget. And it was the concerns that I had when I talked to them, that it is a significant budget. So, I think when we bring that information back to council, it would play in my decision as well.
And my second point would be, would that not be something that YASTA would handle?
I believe they have been consulted. I don't know why the ask is not coming from them. Maybe we could ask staff to follow up on that as well.
So all we're doing right now is a letter of support. I can
Correct.
support that. But when it comes to the details, I think it should, instead of coming to, the last time we had Play On Hockey Night in Canada, if I remember correctly, was 2013. And I participated in that with a bum ankle and all. And I do remember there was a big media presence from CTV, or...
That was the national. This is a provincial event, would be
Okay.
my guess.
Okay, so this would be a provincial one.
Yeah.
But as far as writing a letter of support, absolutely. But when it comes to the details, maybe we should have an organization like YASTA, who we fund, whose tasked to go ahead and do all the legwork to bring events here. So maybe we'll write the letter of support, yes, but after that, then we'll see where it goes. So that's all that I have. Like I said, I would support writing a letter. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 9.4, this is how good my writing is. Detection sign for Cape for Shoe. It should say direction sign for Cape for Shoe. Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, my God.
I had a resident just today at lunchtime ask why there wasn't a directional signage somewhere along the route, most specifically on the corner of the Grove Road and Main Shore Road and Highway 304, Councillor Cushing's district, why there wasn't some kind of directional signage. So I guess I would ask through you to the CAO to get some clarity on why there isn't. I think I might know some of that answer, but
So that's part of the provincial highway system, so it'd be the responsibility of the province to put the directional signage up that would tell people where communities are located. It's my understanding there had been a sign there before. It fell over and I think is broken, and it's my understanding a new sign has been ordered and will be installed.
oh, okay. So how, and I know that it differs from the way signage we have for like the business park or the rec complex.
Yeah, so the municipality has installed some wayfinding signage for some of its assets. And so Cape for Shoe is a community, but it's also a tourist destination. So the green and white signage that you would see from the province would refer to the community, most likely.
Right.
And then council could direct us to create wayfinding signage that would refer to the tourist destination.
So, okay. So I think that was, so I will make a motion to ask staff to research wayfinding signs to direct people to Cape for Shoe, our asset, not, the light station, not the community. Right.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Nick Hilton. Discussion? Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor Hurlbert, for bringing this to the table. I'd had a few phone calls about it and talked to DOT, and they said that it had been on order, or is on order, and will be put up. Again, the green and white sign when it's received. But again, Cape for Shoe Light Station is probably our most visible asset, not just in our community, but probably around the world. So I'd be excited to hear what it would be like to put up some wayfinding signage that brought a little more excitement than the green and white signs, directing tourists there to maybe climb the light.
Don't disagree. I think in regards to signage, and I keep hearing the words about on order. I know a couple signs that's been on order for years, especially out signifying where the 203, but that's not what the motion's about. Get back to this. Absolutely. Anything that we can do to make any municipal property or highly visible, one of the top 10 attractions in Canada, visible? Absolutely. Councillor Lauren Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Yes, I was notified as soon as the sign did fall over or blow over, or whatever it happened to it. And I had contacted the Department of Highways, ASAP about it, and they thanked me for it, and they said that they would be looking into it. So, we all know the Department of Highways at times don't act really fast on doing things. Number one reason, they have a large area to look after, and I'll say my district is not the only district that they have to look at for signs coming down, location signs falling down. So, unfortunately, people get very impatient in waiting for something to be done, but, you know, it may not be done right away, but I'm confident that it will be replaced in our own type of signage is a great idea to try to do. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Please note, Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham had left the seat. Okay, item 9.5, Pride Parade. Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pride, Southwest Nova Pride Association, I think is their name. I apologize if I got that wrong. Are having a Pride Parade on September 23rd. And through you to the CAO, is there anything that we could do as a municipality? And I know that we have less than a month to come up with something, as far as enter a float or decorate a truck and put it in. If not, then I would just encourage people to go out and support the parade. And I know this is a last-minute addition, and we've had no discussion on this. So
we have no policy governing our participation in parades, and we have never had a float in any parade ever.
okay. So how about we just leave it, and I encourage people to participate in the event on September 23rd, and then maybe moving forward, we'll come up with something. I know parades are few and far between nowadays, but yeah, I'll think about it and come up with, you know, something that maybe we can add to a future agenda.
What we can do, though, is make sure we grab the information from the communications that Southwest Nova Pride is putting out there, and make sure we share the information like we do for every other community event or festival that we're made aware of. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
I'm going to add to that a little bit, and please forgive me for looking on my phone, because the MPLAC group, the ones that correct the room levy, just yesterday, which I'm part of, there's myself, the mayor, and there's also the hotel managers. There was a request that come through, a funding request that come through the MPLAC group. So they are the ones that collect all the room levy fees, and in the town, we vote on what the town doles out. So actually, we supported that just as of yesterday. So they are getting some funding and money. Any requests and stuff like that should be coming through YASTA. So that event is going to be funded through the hotel group. So just something that I wanted to bring up. Actually, it's probably going to come up in our committee reports. So I don't even know if MPLAC's on there anymore. But anyway, just yesterday, we all agreed to move forward with actually 3 or 4 different events. So, and the MPLAC group has not met, but we just, we need to ratify it in the next meeting, but we all agreed. So, item 9.6, Councillor Cushing update. Well, we know you're here. The rumor has it some politicians don't have a heart, but apparently you do. So, I don't mean to make fun, but we're very, on behalf of the residents of the municipality, we're very happy to have you back, and you're going to give us an update on what happened.
I just wanted to let the public know that I haven't been on an extended vacation. On June 26th, I had a big change in my life. My wife insisted that I go see the doctor for a stress test, which I wasn't in favor of doing, but I did at 9:30 on a Monday morning, June the 26th, and I was immediately admitted to the hospital with an irregular heartbeat, and I was monitored for that week. And on July the 2nd, I was by ambulance. I went to Halifax, where I had a dye test, so they see they could put a stent in. And the dye test, you could watch it on the monitor. All it did was just go around in circles. So they couldn't do any type of stint and whatnot. And at that time, I was informed that I had to have some artery, some bypasses, anywhere from 1 to 3. On July 7th, I did have my heart surgery, and I had a quadruple bypass, and my 4 arteries were 80% blocked. And I never did have not that I know of, had a heart attack, but I was just, prior to that, I was just tired, and I just couldn't do a lot of work, which made me very upset. And on July the 12th, I arrived home, and that was 5 days after my surgery, and I've been trying to recover since then. At times, my voice is a little shaky. My whole body feels like if you're cold, you kind of shivers, and my hands shake a lot. So I have an interesting time trying to eat with a fork. But anyway, I am back. And the care that I received in the Yarmouth Hospital, in the QE2 hospital, was second to none. I was very well looked after. I know our health system is in a crisis, but I was very well looked after. And of course, my family was, I can't thank them enough for what they have done for me, and the very positive comments I've received from my fellow councillors, and a huge number of people. I do know, I know a lot of people, but I didn't realize there were so many people that knew me. And then, and my last comment I wanted to make, I had received this letter in the mail. It was in an envelope addressed from the municipality of Yarmouth. So I said, oh, okay then. So I opened it up, and I started reading some names on it, and I said, I assumed it was from staff. And I started looking at the names. I said, well, that person doesn't work at the municipality. Those people don't work for the municipality. And then I seen the word from the backbenchers. So thank you very much for that support. Even though you may not agree with me at times, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. So that's all I wanted to say, and I am back, and I will be getting a lot better. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor Cushion. On behalf of everybody across the municipality in the province of Nova Scotia that know you, welcome back. You're a strong guy, and like I said earlier, and I always make jokes to make light of a bad situation. At least you have a heart.
Yeah. Well, one of my fellow councillors made a comment that I won't say.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor Cushing, for that update, and we're glad to have you back and in fighting form. I would ask you to show us your scar, but no, I'm not going to go down that road. All right, item number 10, correspondence for action, 10.1.1, request for funding, track and field project. Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I believe it was after the 2016 election, the three councils for the municipalities in Yarmouth County got together and talked a little bit about big projects and regional projects. And one of the projects that came to the table was the notion of an outdoor track and field facility behind the Paramba School in Tuscott. And so since then, other regional projects that have been advanced include the renovations to the ferry terminal and our expansion at the Mariner Centre. And so this year, an opportunity became available to access a lot of provincial money to build that track and field facility at Paramba, $2 million roughly. And so the municipality of Argyle, as the lead municipality on that particular project, sharpened their pencil and got to work and pulled the project together. And in your package, Council, is the formal ask from the municipality of Argyle to contribute equally with Argyle and the town to cover a shortfall of up to $600,000 to see that the project gets constructed. So a proposed motion would be up to $200,000.
I was just going to mention that if someone makes a motion when it comes to big funds like that, up to, because if the money's not all used, doesn't mean, if the money's all used, then absolutely, but if it's not all used, don't want to pay any more than we have to. Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, and through you to the CAO, is that to be added to next year's capital budget? Or
Sort of. So in this year's budget, you've already provided for $25,000 because we understood we were doing some work to prepare the project, but the project is a go. There are machines on site now working. So I've notified the CAO for Argyle that likely, if council approved it, we would flow the money in the 2024-25 budget.
Okay, so I just comment, I think, you know, we've done some great work regionally since we started our term with the work at the Mariners Center and the addition that's coming there. This is another top-of-the-line sports facility. Doesn't happen to be located in Yarmouth or the town of Yarmouth, but we need to support them as they've been good partners to us. So I know that the town has made the motion to fund their up to $200,000, and I would make that motion, but I probably need a little help with it, Madam CAO, because up to $200,000, and maybe you could finish that for me to make sure that it's correct.
It's not up to the CEO to make motions, it's up to
Could you,
Council the floor. So I guess make a motion to approve up to $200,000 for the track and field project in Municipality District Argyle would be in order.
correct, so moved.
So you so move?
Yep.
Okay, moved by Councilor Nick Hilton. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councilor Daniel Allen. Before I move the questions, Chair's prerogative, I'd like to speak first. Way back when we started talking about the Mariner Center expansion, there was actually even before that, the major projects that the county of Yarmouth wanted to see was the Mariner Center expansion. The track and field was also another one. And I did say then, and I'm a man of my word, if the Municipality District Argyle would move in with ownership or at least confirm funding for the Mariner Center, I would be all over this. And I'm a man of my word. So that's number one. Number two, the Acadian Congress 2024 is happening. That not only supports the Municipality District Argyle, but all of Southwest Nova Scotia and Nova Scotia itself. And it'd be great to have a sports facility, which they will be using, from my understanding, to support that. I just work in Tuscan Sales and Service, which is right across the road, basically, from where this place is, and they've been doing a lot of work there. And I remember the last Acadian conference that they had here, it was busy. It was really busy in anything that we can do. And they also have a legacy project for not only residents of the Municipality District Argyle, but all of Southwest Nova. And that's going to be a world-class event. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Should that motion also include the year we're taking this money from? So if we have $25,000 from this year,
Yes, to be clear, we should make an amendment to the motion that where the money's coming from.
right?
But
Yeah, that's what, I knew that's what you were looking for. It
so,
needs-
so what I would entertain is a motion to
amend the motion to include the 2024-2025 budget year.
yes, and
And
then
from upper capital.
from capital.
From capital.
So you're making a motion to amend the main motion to have it come from the 24-25 budget from capital.
Yes. Oh, wait. No, the CAO's come running up behind you. We're not doing something right.
No, we're just making an amendment motion, Madam CEO.
So we already have
to-
25.
There's an accounting rule about the amendment that I should share with
Okay.
council.
And
Yeah.
that's why we.
You were running back from wherever you were feverishly.
So under the finance rules for municipalities, we can't use our capital reserve for a project that we don't own. So it will
Okay.
have to come out of probably operating reserve.
Okay.
Okay.
So
the
you're making an
amended-
amendment to the motion.
The amended motion will be that the money comes from the 2024-2025 operating because of that rule.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sure the recording clerk
Yeah.
will clean that up. Do I have a seconder? Second by Counselor Patty Durkee. So there's amendment on the main motion. Discussion on that? Deputy Warden?
No, other than to say, to the main motion, I know we're talking about that, but it is a good project. Lots of local athletes. There's a track club that operates out of Yarmouth, writ large, I guess, essentially. That would include, and that includes, kids from, young people from as far away as Annapolis and Shelburne County, and they all coalesce largely around that track, and also some of the tracks in town, but really we do need a much better facility to be able to host, track and track-related events, so, yeah. And it's definitely leveraged, thank you, and it's definitely leveraging money, and the province did a great job, because when you look at the accounting, they're putting in the lion's share of the money, so that's a great project for Yarmouth County. So those are my comments.
Counselor Allen?
And I agree with Deputy Warden Cunningham on all fronts. I've always said that our area, when people mention community, it reaches farther than just the municipality of Yarmouth, the municipality of Argyle, or the town of Yarmouth. I think, my opinion is we're pretty close-knit. You see someone from everywhere every day. You can't go to town and not see someone from Argyle. You see people from town in Argyle. It's just a great project. We're coming into the 21st or 22nd century. I'm not sure what century we're in at this point, but
22nd?
We've got the Mariner Center expansion project coming. We're making great leaps with that, and to me, for our area and our community, this is just another project that's gonna put us out there. It's gonna put us on the map. So I'm glad to be a part of this.
Any more discussion on the amendment on the main motion? Question being called on the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Now back to the main motion. Any more discussion on the main motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very, very much, everyone. All right, the next one on the agenda, item 10.1.2, the Melbourne Community Center request. Councillor Allen, I do believe it was you that I had asked to have that added.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was me that has added this. The Melbourne Community Center is an asset that belongs to the municipality, and we lease it to a group that part of the lease is to take care of it. They've been doing great work down there. I don't actually visit it probably as much as I should, as close as it is to my house, but I have visited it lately. They're doing a lot of work inside. They had a big list of things that they had to complete in order to pass inspections and things like that, and they've done it. And unfortunately, the roof is failing. This is not a letter asking us for money at this time. I can't say, I don't know what their future plans are, if they'll be applying to us for a grant or not, but they are applying for a grant through the New Horizons for Seniors grant process. And all they're asking from us is for a letter of support. So I'd like to make a motion that we write that letter of support.
So you're making a motion to write a letter of support to the community, Melbourne Community Center for their grant, for the request. Second by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. Any discussion on that? One quick note. Me and my wife had our wedding reception there X amount of years ago. We'll leave it at that.
In other words, you don't know how many.
28. I had to think, though. All right, is any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 10.1.3, letter from Mr. Ron Cox regarding some issues he had. Councillor Lauren Cushion, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And again, I want to thank Ron for his letter and I had to write this stuff down, right? And I would like to point out a few items. At our February the 9th meeting, you may recall, I made a motion that we, let me put this closer then, that we send a letter to the Minister of Health and carbon copy the Premier to address your concerns. My decisions to make this motion was based on your letter, and since I am an elected official of council, I felt it was my responsibility to let council have an opportunity to discuss your letter and respond as a united council. And that was done. As for me, I chose to have the vaccine. Others chose not to, and I respect that. I believe our letter to the Minister of Health and the copy of the Premier expresses our council's concerns. And one of the last lines of that letter is, use every available resource, balancing the risk and the benefits to fixing the health care crisis. So for me to go out and support your cause, I would be kind of a hypocrite because I took the vaccine, you know? So this is why, you know, I brought it before council, and we did send a letter, and the letter was sent on March the 6th. So, you know, and it just lays out what was asked. Now, for some other issues that Ron brought to my attention was, you know, council provides a voice for the public by allowing presentations that balance reasonable access with time required to conduct other business at council. Residents may write letters to the warden in council at any time. Such letters are placed on public agendas where action is requested. Council discusses how it will proceed. So we do. You know, you may not get your time to make a presentation as soon as you ask, because we do get a number of requests. Excuse me, I'm not nervous. It's just I have a hard job trying to speak. And the third was about the Planning Advisory Committee. And the recommendation from the Planning Advisory Committee to Council follows a 2 years of work, which included 2 rounds of public engagement. Both rounds included online surveys, comment cards, public meetings, pop-ups at the Red and White and Mariner Center, as well as filing 2, what we heard, reports to the PAC, which publicly reviewed with the PAC meetings. So we, you know, council does their due diligence to the max that they can according to the rules that we have to follow, sort of thing. So I think by addressing these issues to Ron, I hope I have given you a proper answer. Thank you.
Any more? Seeing none?
Yeah.
We'll move on. Item 1014, letter to me from Mr. Fay, my apologies for that. Ms. Fay Muse and Mr. Greg Muse, who made a presentation actually last week in regards. There was a bunch of things that was put on here. There's something that a couple things that I really want to point out in regards to policies and initiatives that are being pursued. A lot of you don't know that a lot of things that the municipality district of Yarmouth does, and all other municipalities across Nova Scotia have to do, is we are issued orders and policies that we have to follow by the province. We are basically a creation of the province through legislation. There's a lot of things that we don't have control over. There's a lot of things that we're told to do. There's a lot of things that we do that we really don't like, but we do have mechanisms that we can push back. One of them would be the Nova Scotia Federations and Municipalities, which actually Councillor Patty Durkee sits on, to bring our voice back to the board to speak directly to the province and Minister John Lohr. There's a lot of things that happen that I don't like, and obviously you've heard, and I have no problems speaking my mind in that regards. There was a question in here about question period. Now, a lot of you are not going to like the answer I'm going to give. I, at this time, would not support a question period from the public to council, and I'll tell you why. Number one, there's a lot of different avenues that you can have to have your voices heard here at the table. For example, like say, for example, if there was a motion made here, the one that was just passed in regards to the Melbourne Community Center request. If you did not agree with that, what I would suggest to you is contact, whether it be me or any other of my colleagues, and there's a tool in Robert's Rules, it's called Notice of Motion. A notice of motion is giving council notice that they want a decision that we recently made to be reviewed. Now, to my knowledge and my research, I was the last one to do that in February 28th of 2020, and that was in regards to the splash park. There's different tools that are not currently being used. Another thing is, if I brought that motion to the table now, which I would, I have no problems doing that. But the problem with that is if I put that motion to the floor, it gets seconded, it gets voted down, I cannot return it. Cannot. So that means that that whole issue would die. I would like personally to do a little bit more research on this, because I do know that there is at least 2 municipalities in Nova Scotia that do it, and one is actually our neighbors. A municipality district of Clare does it, and I believe the town of Kentville, and I think there's a third one. I would like to do some research, because I personally have not witnessed what a question and answer session would look like, and also we would need to set up policy. So rather than just putting a motion on the floor to allow this, I personally would like to see myself at least do a little bit of research and bring a report back through my ward's report or something else, or an agenda item on questions that was brought here. I don't believe in putting motions on the floor that I know that are going to lose. As I don't think, I can't speak for everybody right now, I don't think it would pass. I really don't, because the unknown. It may get deferred or amendment made to it, but I would like to personally be a little bit more schooled, or at least educated on how it works, whether the pros or cons. I do know Yvonne LeBlanc in the municipality of Clare, and actually yesterday in my Warren's report, I was hoping to see him up during Acadian Day yesterday and ask him some questions so I'd have a little bit more to say about it. But I don't. I do listen to your concerns. I do read all the letters that come. I'm certainly open to meeting with anybody. It doesn't matter if it's 2 people, 1 person, or 20. You name the time and place, and if I don't have another prior commitment, I'll meet you wherever you wish. And you can express your concerns that way on things that you see that are not going the way that you would like to see them. It is my job as warden, or any other councillor's job. We are all councillors of the whole municipality of Yarmouth. If you don't like me or don't want to talk to me, you can certainly talk to somebody else, because we are all councillors for the municipality district of Yarmouth for all people. Just because we get elected in a what's the word? I just lost my train of thought. Don't tell me. District doesn't mean that that I can't or another councillor can speak for other residents. Because let's face it, some people like me, some people don't, and I'm okay with that. You can only make half the people happy half the time, and yourself once in a while, is what I've been always told. I'm certainly open. I have no problem telling you what I think and why I think. You may not agree with me, you might agree with me, and you can certainly make points to argue your point to change my mind, in which they have. That's been done here at the table a few times on concerns that I've had, and just by a point that one of these people have made out would change my mind. So at this time, I'm not prepared to make a motion like that. You had mentioned something too when Councillor Lauren Cushion put it out there about a planning advisory committee, about the meeting that was held on July 27, 2023. As you all heard here earlier, we all have concerns. I believe in people having a chance to have their say. And a lot of you had heard me say tonight that this is not the time for you to speak, but you will have a chance to speak. I used to be the chair of Planning Advisory Committee. That is not a simple committee to sit on. There's a lot of information. It just so happened, I had a lot of questions long before I received this letter and concerns. I wouldn't have passed it. There's some things that I'm not sure of. I'm waiting to hear from the planner before I talk about when it comes to landowners' rights. And there's also a few other things that I believe that are not addressed, like waterfowl. Some people have mentioned to me too that I should have been to public participation meetings. Unfortunately, I know how to run a meeting, and that's not my place to go in there and overshadow the concerns of the residents. I do listen, I do hear, I do read, and even though I'm not there, I'm there. And people that have concerns, bring them to me. I have no problem at all making notices of motion in anything like this. But you will have your say. It will come after council, if they pass the first reading in September 27th, if they pass. That means it's going to get, a public hearing will be called. And you can have as much time as you wish to pick it apart and concerns you have with it. And then that will come to council. And then we could turn that back to the Planning Advisory Committee or something like that. I'm just trying to do this as a little bit of an education piece. I really do appreciate your letter. I don't know if I agree with everything in there, but I certainly love to hear from different people, and I certainly try to listen. You may not agree with me, you may. We'll find out in next election season in 2024. I guess we will. So, with that said, I don't know if I addressed all your concerns in the letter. I did try to get a hold of your cell phone number, but I don't think it's appropriate. I probably could. Please grab my card that's just outside there, or any of you, be my cards and any of the other councilors' cards. If you have concerns, please contact us. We do have tools to reverse decisions of the majority of council. Whether it works or not always. It has. But I just wanted to point that out. I do hear you. I enjoy the letters. I do respond on Facebook. I try to be responsive as possible, but that's just another animal in itself that's that can take up a lot of your time, and I don't sit there and watch my phone. I'm still a little bit old school, as you all heard. But anyway, I hope you appreciate the answer I got. I don't expect you to like it, but I am certainly open. Councillor, I don't know who's first.
Me.
Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to those who express their opinions. I think it's really important, and I think any one of us are always interested in listening to what our citizens have to say. On that note, one of the concerns was, how do we get to you? How do we get our opinions to you? So I'd like to make a motion to have staff develop frequently asked questions in ways the public can be heard by council, so that our community knows for sure how to get in touch with us. One of the things I've always said is, if you don't tell me that there's a problem, then I don't know, and I can't help fix it. So we just want to make sure that you know that we're here for you, and we may not always agree with you, you may not always agree with us, but we'll certainly always be there to hear your concerns.
Okay, motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. Discussion? So I want to get this straight, Councillor Durkee, since your mic is still on, don't turn it off. So you want staff to make up...
To make up a list of frequently asked questions. For example, how do I get in touch with my counselor? How do I express, what are the different ways I can express my concerns? What do I do if a motion is made and I don't agree with it? things like that. So
Yeah,
frequently asked
and
questions.
possibly tools that
Yes.
their counselor could use, like me, like I'd mentioned, notice of motion that could be used, and things like that, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, no, I understand, okay. Thank you. All right,
Now can I turn it off?
yes, you can. I wished I knew how to turn microphones back on. Counselor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to, comment on Councillor Durkee's, thought and, motion. I think that, it's a great idea. And so at this point, is our discussion about what was talked about before the motion, or are we only allowed to discuss what she, or can we continue to have the dialogue about the letters and,
No, it's only about the motion on the floor, but once the motion's passed, you can come back.
okay.
You can come back. Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, is there any more discussion on that item? I see there is. Councillor Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Neither of these letters were addressed to me, but I feel that as a representative of our citizens, I feel that I should comment. A couple of the things that, were in both letters, which I found concerning, were where it says we were charging ahead with little to no consultation with regard to our municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw. And I would respectfully disagree. We have a report that actually talks about all of the ways that our consultant went through public engagement. And one of the main things was the webpage. And, I feel like we have, in the last 3 years, we continue to hear that public participation and public engagement is low on just about everything we do. And for this, I feel that we, as a municipality, have done everything we could, listed. Councillor Cushing, talked about some of those. We had stakeholder interviews, we had council and staff workshops, we had pop-up events, all of those things. So I'm not sure, and I guess, I'd be open to, feedback on how, because we continue to struggle with this within the municipality, how we get more feedback on the things we're asking for. I don't remember what survey we did, and we ended up with like 4% of our population. I don't remember what it was, but it was just some, maybe, yeah, that's right, accessibility, where we put out a survey on, what the residents wanted, and we had, drafted what we thought was, a survey that would capture everything, and the response rate was abysmal. It was embarrassing. And so I would encourage the public, when we have things that we're asking you to comment on, and not just the people in the gallery, people who are watching at home, people who have a vested interest in any of those things we're asking for, to provide the feedback. We asked in this for the last 2 years for people to provide feedback, and the stats are there. 2 surveys, which attracted 61 responses. 61. That's like, so I guess, to say that, there was little to no consultation, this outlines everything that we did to consult. And I think that we, and our residents, need to be participating. And, there are people here who are participating now, but we need everyone to be engaged in what we do. And, that might be this particular process, it might be an accessibility survey we ask, it might be active transportation, it might be recreation. All of those things are there for the public, and we encourage people to do that. So I guess I just struggle with that, because I know that we ask people to participate, and then when they don't, and then we hear that there was no consultation, well, there was. In my opinion, we did everything I feel that we could have or should have to have that consultation process. And, another thing, in the last 3 years, I put forward a motion to change part of our procedural policy that up until then, the agenda was given to us on the Friday, and it wasn't given to the public, wasn't released to the public until 6 o'clock, the time that the meeting happened. And because of the motion and the changes we've made in the last 3 years, all of our documents are made live 2 days before any council or any public council meeting. So if the members of the public have concerns about anything that's on that agenda, that's their time to get in contact with us and say, oh, I see you have Play On your agenda. What is your opinion on this? Or my opinion is this, and I will listen to that. But I think that we're always willing to make things better, and I think that was one of the huge things for me that made things better. It made us more transparent to the public. It made the public be able to see what we do. They can see every single document that we saw Friday. So we have Friday, Saturday, Sunday to digest it and figure it out, and then Monday, it's live for the public, and then that's when they can come back to us before today and say, here are my concerns. So I think that I feel we've done a good job in that. Are there areas for improvement? Sure, there probably are. And, I appreciate the letters from our public. I know there's some of us who haven't received them and others who had received them that aren't listed here. I guess I struggle with, I feel like we're doing the best that we can, and what improvements need to happen, we need to figure those out by listening to the public. And, we allow questioning, we allow presentations to happen, but we also have an entire community who also want to give presentations on things that we are funding. We ask certain organizations to come because they've asked us for money. And in order for us to give them money, we need to hear what they're doing. So does the public always get to come here in a timely, way? I'm hoping that they do, but that doesn't mean that all of those other things can be put on the back burner because other people want to speak. And, we have some procedural policies. We've, worked through some of those, and we'll continue to work through them to make it better. Thanks.
Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and people at home watching are probably wondering who we're talking to, and we're talking to the people that are here with us tonight and have been with us for months. And I just want to be truly honest, you guys do make me a better councillor. I know that you're asking for that voice at every council meeting, and I'm not sure what that would look like. But I make my decisions and I do my work prior to council meeting so that I can make an informed decision when I get here. I would like your questions prior to a council meeting so that it helps to inform my decision. I would like you to send me questions prior to a public hearing so it helps me inform my decision. I'm no different than you guys. I need to do the work to make sure that I'm ready for a meeting. We're heading into 3 hours of a council meeting and, multiple items on there, on the agenda. It takes time to be ready for the number of committees and the number of council meetings that we have. Like you, we're involved. We ran because we want to be involved. And when we hear that 61 people took a survey that we put out, we're just as appalled by that as you are, except it only seems like people, or some people, get involved when there's an issue. And if they don't have an issue, we don't hear from them. We wish we heard from them more often. Like Councillor Hobart said, the change to the council procedural policy was a direct change because residents asked for that. And although you don't necessarily get to participate in debate, which is normal procedure, you guys had an influence on the votes that have happened here tonight. The one about the paper ballot was, although John brought it up, it was very clear that what this side of the room was asking for, and you made that change happen. So although you don't participate in active debate, which again I think is very normal, I enjoy the conversations that I have with you. I enjoy the time that we spend debating back and forth outside of a meeting. And again, you make me a better counselor, and I guarantee you, not trying to hide anything from you. I want to be very transparent. If I don't answer a question, sometimes that's very political. Vaccines is a very hot topic. I'm a nurse. I worked there. I watched my coworkers get taken out the door. I have views on that may be different than yours, but it doesn't mean that I enjoyed any of that in any way. So I am here to support you. I am here to have those conversations before, after meetings, or any time throughout the week. So thank you again for the letters. Keep sending them. Keep addressing the issues that you want addressed, because it may not be something that's on my mind, but because it's on yours, it will make its way to the table. Thank you.
Deputy Warden.
I just wanted to make a little comment about the Planning Advisory Committee's work around the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw. And while it's true, it has taken place over a couple of years, it's also true, and this is part of the nuance of it, that a lot of the meat of the matter hasn't really happened until relatively recently. If you've been watching the PAC, some of the change, like, you know, there's a long process, but really Upland was doing a lot of that work with the community. You know, we got updates, but really the full document sort of moved over the last, you know, little bit, couple, you know, a month or so to the PAC. So really the meat of it hasn't been available to any of us, really. I mean, we steered the process for 2 years, that's true, and especially there were a couple of votes at the PAC, and rightly so. We have elected members and we have community members sitting on that, and again, it's an advisory body, and there were some changes made to what Upland had initially submitted to PAC, and council, you'll certainly avail yourself of all those facts over the next little bit, and I'd suggest that everybody go through and read the documents as they sort of progressed. And those votes are a matter of public record, certainly, and it speaks to what the warden was speaking to about, you know, that tension between, you know, environment and landowners' rights, and that's going to be up to us as a council to decide where we stand on that and what we want that document to look like after we go through the process of public input and all the rest of it. So that 2-year timeline, while it's true it has taken that long, it is a much shorter period of time that really the documents have been there, and I think people are just learning about it. So I was pleased tonight really to see us take a little bit more time to allow both councillors who may have not been at the PAC table the whole time, obviously, there's only 4 of us that sit there, and the public to get a little bit more of a look and sense of what this really means, because it is an important document. I'm looking forward to having that conversation at the council table and with the community. I think it's very, very important to get this right, because it is a very important document, and those would be my comments. I think probably that's helpful for everybody in terms of looking at the timeline. It is 2 years, but in essence it's not really that long in a sense, because we've only had for a little bit, sort of last month or so, those documents kind of in semi-final form to come to council, and that's not final. Obviously council makes a decision about what's going to be in the MPS and LUB. That's our responsibility. So thank you, Council.
Councillor Nick Hilton, and I need a motion as soon as you're done speaking to extend the council meeting as per our council procedure policy C-028-19, because we've gone over the 2-hour limit. I want that after. Usually I ask for an agenda item, but I didn't expect this item to go so long. So just be aware that we're over our prescribed time limit.
Should have expected this item to go that long. Just to build on what John our warden and deputy warden have said, you know, the very first thing we did was hold a public meeting, and you asked what just happened. It took me a while to figure out what just happened. And, you know, I encourage you to ask those questions around procedure. It's not that we're trying to hide anything. That's just the way the Robert Rules book was written. You know, we were at the time in the process for a public hearing related to the REMO bylaw. That's what happened. It was advertised. No one came and no one presented because no one had an issue with that one. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't care enough to read it. So I just feel like there's a lot of things around procedure that sometimes looks like we're hiding something when we're really not. It's just, we've done this with previous bylaws, and that's just the procedure that we follow. So, to your point, what just happened, sometimes that was your chance to speak, to be honest. That was the chance in that process for that bylaw to have public participation. So, it's important to kind of follow up with your council prior to a regular meeting and say, even just what's going on and what's going to be passed. Reach out anytime.
Thank you very much. And in closing, I'm always open. I'll meet anywhere, anytime, any place, alone. Don't matter to me. I have nothing to hide. What you're going to hear me say here is the exact same thing you're going to hear me say out there, or at Tuscan Ford, or at Carlton Store, or out in the woods there during a canoe rally. Okay, I need a motion to extend the regular council meeting because we're supposed to have a 2-hour time limit. I was going to do it before or after this agenda item, but it went on a lot longer than I expected. So I need a motion to extend. Moved by Councillor Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham and seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton to extend the regular council meeting as per policy C-028-19. Okay, motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Okay, that's the last of correspondence for action. As I said there earlier, I do want to follow up with some of my colleagues on how it actually works. And I will give a report. Item 10.2, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 correspondence for information. Municipality Argyle, PVSC service commitments, Tri-County Women's Center grant usage, what they've used the grant for, and a report for the 22-23 PVSC, Property Valuation Service Corporation. Correspondence from Minister Johns. Participation finalists, congratulations. And the news release and Circular Economy Progress Update, EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility, something that actually is going to affect a lot of things about one of the presentations that someone gave here about having some of the corporations be responsible for their litter. There it is. We finally got it in legislation by the province after 15 plus years that I know of fighting for that with the province to try to get some of that EPR. And what that means is people who produce garbage, it was said by corporations, coffee companies, some other companies, they'll actually have to pay for municipalities to dispose of that. Deputy Warden.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring attention to the letter that the municipality of Argyle wrote us about the airport. It's a wonderful letter. They're looking to collaborate certainly with their joining units, which would be us in the town of Yarmouth, and we need that agreement so that we can work together with the airport. And many may have seen in the news media that there was an announcement for enhanced air ambulance service. So they're going to be moving a lot more people from Yarmouth in from Sydney to Halifax via the airport. And that's one of the reasons that when I came on council, I wasn't necessarily aware, but the airport is tremendously important because when it's stormy, the helicopters can't fly from the hospital. You need a fixed wing aircraft, and this is an additional piece. So they're going to be doing this more routinely. So certainly people won't have to ride in an ambulance, if they're really, really ill, to Halifax. It'll be much, much better. And I think it's really recognition of the importance of airport. It does. We only need to look at how important it was during the emergency that we had and just next door, and it could have very well happened in Yarmouth County and Shelburne County. So it really is an asset for all of southern Nova Scotia, and we should really be trumpeting keeping that open and keeping it in good working order. And there's some issues there with infrastructure, but it's something that we can't afford to lose. So I was very pleased to see the, municipality of Argyle, send the letter, and also very, very pleased to see that announcement for the air ambulance service. So I think the tide's turning. I think we're moving in the right direction on the airport. Thank you very much.
Councillor Hurlbert?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You spoke about EPR. I'm just going to reiterate, this has been a long time coming, and Councillor Cushing and I both sit on Waste Check and Solid Waste Management Authority, and this is a welcome news for those two boards that we are on, as well as the municipality. So it says, I'm just going to read a couple of things here. EPR programs make producers accountable for end-of-life management of their goods, which improves recycling efforts and supports waste reduction. A new set of EPR regulations will cover packaging, paper products, and materials in the residential blue bags, making producers responsible to pay for, collect, and recycle the materials. Producers will have to meet recycling targets that will encourage more eco-friendly packaging and reduce single-use plastics. And it says having producers cover the cost of recycling will save Nova Scotia municipalities about $25 million annually. So this is great news, something that I think was close to happening and then not close to happening, and then we think, yeah, it's close to happening, and when it finally happened, I'm like, oh, it happened. It was kind of anticlimactic for me, because we were hoping it would come, and then it didn't, and now it's here, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the government rolls this out and what the regulations will look like, and yeah, good news for us.
Yeah, like I said, I remember this issue coming up in the first year, probably one of the first agenda items I ever attended on council, 15 years ago. So it's good news. Councillor Durkee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to comment, this has been one of Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities' highest priorities for many years, so it's quite nice to be able to cross that off the list in terms of the top resolutions.
Absolutely. FCMs always was an issue. All right, I ain't going to believe that anymore. That was for information. Report, CEO's report. You all have that in your package? Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the CAO. I know you gave us a quick update in here on Cape Firshu Light, but can you just kind of go through where we are and what's left to happen?
Sure. So the viewing platforms that were constructed at Cape Firshu are largely complete. The team was working on landscaping yesterday and today. Our team is looking at the project. We're doing inspections to identify deficiencies for contract compliance. So it's looking like we're in the home stretch, and the area of the site should be open in a week or so that residents and tourists and visitors can enjoy the platforms and just have a view of the harbor from a different vantage point than either way up at the top of the light or down on the ground. So that's where we're at with that.
Okay, and just to follow up, are we planning to do anything in the spring or late fall as a,
Yeah, so there's
opening?
as I'm learning through other projects that we're doing, the component that puts the pretty on the project, FF&E, furnitures, fixtures, and equipment. So we've got static binoculars to get ordered and installed. We've got some benches and some planters. So that will likely all get procured this fall, and we'll get it ready to install and probably have like an official ribbon cutting in the spring when the site opens and it's all complete.
Perfect, great
With the
news.
pretty
I know
and everything.
When Deputy Warden and I were there for Canada Day, we were behind the barricade, and there were no platforms at all at that point. Then I saw some pictures of somebody I had taken of, the platforms being installed, so it's exciting. Good news. Thanks.
That project is behind, correct?
Yes, oh, yes, definitely behind. Yep. So the steel was manufactured off-site, galvanized in Halifax, and arrived on site like Lego blocks to be put together into the stair structures, the ramp structure, and the actual platforms, and there were mistakes. So it had to be sent back, reworked, regalvanized, and come back.
Yeah, so I already knew the answer to the question, so just wanted to make people aware it was promised to be up and running probably by now, but there were some mistakes, and it takes some time to correct those mistakes, and plus in that environment, it needed to be regalvanized, which takes time. Deputy Warden?
Yeah, I'll move that we receive the CAO's report for this month.
Okay, motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Warden's report. You all may notice I don't have one written this time. To be very honest, I didn't have time. I've been either out busy in the community, or I've been trying to figure out what the MPSLUB meant. Yesterday, I did get out to the Tantrum Mart up in Clare, municipality district of Clare, because my wife's family on the mother's side is from there, and it's something that I always attend. And actually, had gone there on the mission hoping to see Warden LeBlanc up there, but I didn't. Couple things that I want to point out. The Family Fun Day is going to be happening by Yarmouth Recreation August from 10 to 2 p.m. That's going to be happening right here at the Janet Smith.
Yep.
Janet Smith Memorial Field. Bring your kids. It's going to be bouncy castles and stuff like that. The 19th Annual Wedgeport Tuna Festival is starting on the 19th. And the closing ceremonies are going to be on the 26th at approximately 1 p.m. That's something that's always very well attended from not only municipality district Argyll's residents, but from all over. A lot of people from all over the world, actually, from eastern seaboard U.S. It's funny on the times that you have and different meetings you have. Actually, tonight I'm missing a reception from Camp Benile because for community fundraisers. I helped raise some money to save a kid to camp there, and tonight was their thank you, but unfortunately I had a meeting that I had to attend to tonight. And a Honda Trail Hike, this is something new, on August the 17th. It's going to be hosted also by Yarmouth Recreation at 8:30 on the Arcadia Trail, or better known as the Tickapock Trail, out by the old Arcadia School. So that's something that's kind of different, and they're going to be telling ghost stories, and residents and stuff are going to be scared out of their wits, because actually that's a bad part of the neighborhood, because Councillor Allen lives pretty close. I had to bring that up. I could go on different things, so if any of you have any questions, just remember my card is out there for stuff that I've mentioned. Please get a hold of me and leave a message, whether it's Facebook or Messenger or phone call. If I don't answer, I will get back to you. So that's my report. Okay, reports, legal entities. Any verbal reports there? There's a couple written. Deputy Warden?
Yeah, just quickly, the Yarmouth Area Industrial Commission meeting Monday night, and it's a light agenda, but certainly the port divestiture process has taken a lot of our time lately and our attention, and also certainly the medical clinics. We're transitioning, one of them to public health. We'll still own the properties, but that's happening, and lots of good things happening there, and we're busy and very productive. So pleased to sit on that committee. Thank you.
Councillor Allen.
Just a quick note around the Mariner Center Management Authority, that just in the past week, we have passed a motion to create the Mariner Center Health and Wellness Fund as a nonprofit organization to start raising money for the Mariner Center expansion. So, again, big project, very excited. Councillor Hilton's not here. I was hoping he may have an update on the expansion itself, but that was big news for us, that we cleared some stuff up and got that passed, and looking forward to getting that started.
Councillor Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a meeting yesterday, the Yarmouth and Acadian Shores Tourism Association, and I can't tell you how hard those people work. They're constantly looking at data, they're constantly coming up with new ideas for our area, and it's a pretty amazing team. Right now, they're working on Nova Scotia Music Week, which we've had in the past and has always been extremely successful, and I encourage everybody to either volunteer for it or come to the event, so they'll be pretty amazing. The ferry numbers keep coming in every month, and things are looking better and better all of the time. And one of the things that we discussed, and I want to bring this to everybody's attention, is that, the prices in Halifax right now to go to a hotel are unbelievable. It's $400 to $450 a night in Halifax. So to go for a weekend, you're spending about $900. And so I know some people complain about the cost of the ferry, but that's like a return trip on the ferry for 4 people is $900. So, when you think about 2 nights in a hotel, we're looking pretty good. And we also commented about how really reasonable our numbers are in terms of costs of hotels and Airbnbs in the Yarmouth area. And that should put us on the map, because it's, you know, it's really reasonable for people to come and stay in Yarmouth, and we have lots of great things to do. And hopefully that will get through to people on the eastern seaboard as well, because when you look at the American dollar and you look at the accommodations and look what we have, we rock it. It's really good. So the numbers, our hotel numbers are up, our Airbnb numbers are up. So I think people are, because of inflation, are investing more in just like, they have to spend so much for hotels and food that they may not be putting as much money in like the retail component in the area. But our numbers are really good, and they're already starting plans for next year. Thanks.
Councillor Hilton.
My apologies, I missed a couple of those. I'm not sure if we talked about the Mariner Center expansion board, but I appreciate that. So lots of exciting things happening there. We've picked a kind of a concept, and we're moving that on to the next stage of design. Nothing's concrete, no numbers are concrete at this point in time, but we have a concept, we have a fundraising team in place, we have all kinds of good things happening. Lots of questions on social media about why didn't we do this, this and this, but what it came really down to is we picked the concept that we could afford. It's actually over budget, and it gives us the most bang for our buck. We're getting the biggest pool that we can, we're getting the biggest walking track that we can, and it's completely accessible on one level, which was actually cheaper than 2 levels. So everything about the team that's pulling that, pulling the expansion together is being done at the top level. And kudos to our project lead, Mark Brophy, on the constant work, and LM Muse for the work that they've done together, and Nicole Albright as the chair, and all the others that are putting the work in there. Thank you.
Okay, and I have one verbal report in regards to the Yarmouth International Airport Corporation. You all remember the task force that the board sought approval from the 3 funding municipalities. That is on its way, and actually we're going to be holding a special meeting here very soon in regards to approving the terms of reference. As we all know, this airport has been very busy as of late, due to some unfortunate circumstances like the forest fires that happened down in Shelburne. Obviously, our revenues are way up on the Jet A fuel side, and in a future council meeting, I do know there's going to be an agenda item for EHS, and to once again to focus on the the importance of having an airport here to supply that new EHS plane that's going to be landing here in Yarmouth. I do know that that's coming on the agenda in September, or at least the committee of the whole, so I don't want to talk too much about that, because it was actually another councillor that brought that forward. Councillor Patty Durkee.
I just want to add and let people know that there is a really cool event coming up at the airport, and it's the Yarmouth and Acadian Shores Drinks Fest. It's being advertised on Facebook and Instagram, and it's both for alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks. So I know the individual who's putting it together, and it looks like it's going to be really fun. So if anybody's interested in going, get your tickets now.
All right, is that it for reports under legal entities? Advisory? Councillor Durkee.
I just want to let everybody know that Nancy Ellis has been hired as the community navigator for the Doctor Recruitment and Retention Committee with the that works with the Chamber of Commerce and other community organizations for funding. And so we're looking forward to her getting started and actively recruiting. I just went to met a possible doctor like 2 days ago or yesterday, and he seems really keen to come. that would be a specialist, so we're hoping they're able to find a nice accommodation, because that's what it's based on. There's also some OBGYN, they're talking to someone about that, and of course, constantly looking for family doctors. And again, I can't repeat enough that, we're competing with the rest of the world, and we're pretty attractive to people. So everybody's doing the very best that they can. And just to add to that, if you don't have a family doctor, use Maple, which is a virtual program that you can use and speak to a doctor. And if they feel you need to see someone, then they will refer you to, there's a primary care clinic in the basement of the hospital. And so if they feel you really need to see someone, they will refer you there. And then there's the new primary care clinic that is being established in our Harborview. So there's lots of ongoing work, and I believe the emergency department is still in the works for a makeover, which we desperately need.
Any more reports and advisory? Ad hoc? All right, item 12, in camera. I need a motion to go into camera. Moved by Councillor Daniel Allen, seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton to go into camera. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.